The rain came down relentlessly, transforming the tranquil countryside into a swirling blend of gray skies and lush green landscapes. Henry, an old man living in seclusion, resided in a creaky, time-worn house nestled within the dense woods. Despite the peeling paint and wild yard, Henry cherished the solitude. The day was especially stormy, with the sound of thunder reverberating through the forest, amplifying the already somber mood. Henry sat comfortably by the crackling fireplace, engrossed in an old book, when a faint, unexpected knock broke the rhythm of the rain. Startled by the rarity of visitors, especially on such a day, Henry set his book aside and slowly made his way to the door, his joints creaking with age. Upon opening the door, he was met with the sight of a Lily, soaked from the downpour, with a steaming car parked behind her. "Can I help you?" Henry inquired, his voice rough yet kind. The Lily looked at him with pleading eyes. "My car broke down," she explained, her voice quivering. "I couldn't get a signal on my phone and didn't know what to do." After assessing the situation, Henry nodded and invited her in. "You can use my phone to call for help," he offered, stepping aside. Grateful for the shelter, the Lily, who introduced herself as Lily, entered the cozy living room where the fire cast a warm glow. Henry handed her an old landline phone. She dialed a number, explaining her predicament to someone on the other end. Henry observed with mixed emotions, sympathy for her plight and curiosity about her sudden appearance. After the call, Lily expressed her gratitude and requested to stay until help arrived. Henry agreed, offering her a towel and a warm cup of tea. They sat quietly, enveloped in the symphony of rain and thunder, but Henry couldn't ignore a growing unease. There was an inexplicable something about Lily that unsettled him, but he couldn't quite pinpoint it. Lily's eyes roved around the room, lingering on old photographs and trinkets, making Henry feel as if she was intruding on his private memories. Trying to ease the tension, Henry asked, "So, what brings you out this way?" Lily replied, "I was just passing through." Her eyes wide and seemingly innocent, as she recounted her unexpected car trouble. Despite her answers, Henry's unease persisted. He continued with small talk, probing gently about her life and plans. Lily's responses were polite yet vague, leaving Henry with the sense that something wasn't quite right. He dismissed his suspicions, attributing them to his solitary nature and the unexpected presence of company. Time moved slowly as the rain persisted outside. Henry and Lily's silence was only broken by the fireplace's occasional crackle. Henry's thoughts wandered to his past, the life he had escaped by moving to this isolated house. Despite his attempts to leave memories behind, they occasionally resurfaced, like unwelcome guests. The sound of a car engine disrupted their silence. Henry peered outside to see a tow truck pulling up. "Looks like your help has arrived," Henry said, relieved yet somewhat disappointed. Lily stood and thanked Henry for his hospitality, her voice soft and sincere as she prepared to leave. As Lily stepped outside, she turned back to say, "You have a lovely home. It must be nice to live out here." Surprised by her comment, Henry simply replied, "It has its moments," with a hint of sadness in his voice. Lily smiled, then headed towards the tow truck, leaving Henry standing in the doorway, watching her vanish into the rain. With Lily gone, Henry returned to his chair by the fireplace, hoping to lose himself in his book. Despite his best efforts, his mind kept drifting back to Lily and the unsettling feeling she left behind. He tried to focus on the warmth of the fire and the comfort of solitude, pushing away lingering thoughts of her. Days passed, and Henry fell back into his familiar routine, reading, gardening, and walking through the woods. The memory of Lily's visit began to fade, replaced by the comforting predictability of his daily life. One evening, however, a faint creak from the kitchen disturbed his peace, sounding eerily like footsteps. Heart-pounding, Henry stood up, feeling the protest of his old bones, and cautiously made his way to the kitchen. Rounding the corner, he froze at the sight of a figure standing with its back to him by the sink. The figure turned slowly, and to Henry's shock, it was Lily, her eyes wide and intense. "Lily!" Henry whispered, his voice barely audible. Her smile was unsettling, a coldness underlying her expression. "I couldn't stay away," she said softly, almost childlike. "I had to come back." Henry backed away, his mind racing. "What do you want?" he asked, striving to maintain composure. Lily stepped closer, her eyes locked onto his. "I just want to be with you," she pleaded. "I can't explain it, but I feel like I belong here," she continued, her voice desperate. Henry's heart pounded as he insisted. "You need to leave. You can't stay here." Lily's smile vanished, replaced by a steely determination. "I'm not going anywhere," she declared. "I'm always here, watching you. You can't get rid of me that easily," she added coldly. Realizing he needed to act, Henry's mind raced to devise a plan as she blocked his path to the door. Adrenaline surged through Henry, propelling him to bolt out of the house and into the night. He ran without looking back until he reached his neighbor Martha's house, pounding on her door in desperation. Martha, a kind older woman, opened the door, concern etched on her face. "Henry, what's wrong?" she asked. Breathlessly, Henry explained the situation to Martha, his words tumbling out in urgency. Breathlessly, Henry explained the situation to Martha, his words tumbling out in urgency. As Martha listened, her alarm grew evident. "You need to call the police," she advised firmly. Nodding, Henry used her phone to contact the authorities, striving to remain as calm as possible. Waiting for the police, Henry and Martha sat in a tense silence, the weight of the situation bearing down on them. Henry's thoughts raced, struggling to comprehend Lily's fixation on him and her refusal to leave him in peace. Her presence felt like a looming shadow, a constant source of distress that he couldn't escape. The police arrived with flashing lights and blaring sirens, conducting a thorough search of Henry's house. They found no trace of Lily, as though she had vanished into thin air. While relieved, Henry was also frustrated, knowing she was still out there, watching, waiting for another chance. In the days that followed, Henry's paranoia escalated. He installed security cameras around his house, checking them constantly for any sign of Lily. He kept his doors locked and windows secured, always vigilant, yet unable to escape the feeling she was still watching. One night, as Henry sat by the comforting glow of the fireplace, he heard a faint noise coming from outside. His heart skipped a beat. Grabbing a flashlight, he cautiously approached the window, peering into the enveloping darkness. There, at the edge of the woods, stood Lily, her eyes eerily reflecting the beam of his flashlight. Panic surged through Henry as he realized he had to act. He quickly reached for his phone, dialing the police. His voice trembled slightly as he explained the situation, urgency coloring his words. Though the police assured him they were on their way, Henry felt he couldn't wait any longer and knew he must confront Lily. Summoning courage, Henry stepped outside, the flashlight piercing the night as he made his way toward the woods. The intensity in Lily's eyes was unmistakable, her determination clear as she stood waiting for him. "Lily, you have to stop this," Henry said, his voice calm but unwavering. "You can't keep doing this. You must leave me alone." Lily's eyes widened, filled with a mix of pleading and desperation. "I can't," she replied softly. "I feel like I need to be with you." Her voice carried a vulnerability that tugged at Henry's heart, but he stood firm in his resolve. "You have to find your own path, your own life," he said gently. "You can't haunt me like this." Tears welled in Lily's eyes, spilling over as she nodded in understanding. "I'll go," she promised, her voice choked with emotion. "I won't bother you again." Relief washed over Henry as he nodded, thankful for her decision to leave. As Lily turned and faded into the woods, Henry remained standing for a moment, watching her disappear into the shadows. A mix of relief and sadness filled him, knowing this unsettling chapter in his life was finally closing. He returned to his home, his steps heavy with the weight of what had transpired. In the days that followed, Henry discovered a newfound sense of peace, absent the looming presence of Lily. He found joy in the simplicity of life once more, tending to his garden, enjoying walks in the woods, and losing himself in books by the fire. The fear that had gripped him dissipated, replaced by a quiet contentment in his solitude. Despite his return to tranquility, Henry couldn't fully shake the memory of Lily and the echo of her presence. He hoped sincerely that she was somewhere out there, living her own life and finding her own peace. For Henry knew that in the end, everyone seeks their own path, their own sense of harmony with the world around them, a universal hope shared by all.